Hey friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer. Today we're out in the vegetable garden and today we are going to be harvesting garlic. Now when you're harvesting garlic, what you want to look for is for these bottom leaves to dry up. You can see we have one here that's completely dry and shriveled, another one here, and another one here. So you want 3 leaves to be completely brown and dry. You can see that this 4th leaf here is really starting, so it looks like we're going to be harvesting this one at about the right stage. It's always a little bit trickier harvesting something that's growing underground that you can't really see. It's a lot easier to harvest something like a tomato where you can really see when it's ripe. But with garlic, the reason you want to get the timing right is because basically when your garlic is green, all of this green is energy. And you want that energy to be going into the garlic bulb and get stored into the garlic bulb. That's going to make it as big as possible. So that's why you don't want to harvest too early. If you harvest too early, your garlic is not going to have reached its full potential and it will be smaller than it could be. But you also don't want to wait too long. If you wait for this entire plant to turn brown and dry up, what's going to happen is that your garlic head, which is a collection of garlic bulbs, is going to have split. Garlic basically reproduces by taking each of those cloves and turning them into a full head. So if you left it in the ground, that's kind of how it would turn into a perennial. It would split up and each of those cloves would turn into a separate garlic plant next year. We want to get it before they split because basically your garlic head is covered with that papery skin that we're kind of all familiar with. That's what protects your garlic and allows you to store it for so long. Once they start to split, that papery coating is opened and the cloves are exposed and you're not going to be able to store it for as long. So we don't want that to happen. So we are going to harvest this garlic and we'll find out if we are harvesting it at just the right time. I haven't harvested any of these yet, so I have no idea how big they're going to be. So we're about to find out together. Now another thing you can see here is this garlic scape. If you remember back when we harvested garlic scapes together a few weeks ago, I said that I was going to leave a couple on the plant so that you could see what happens if you let them fully develop. Now you can see this one has started to turn into a flower. It hasn't opened yet, but you can see that it's gotten much larger. We're going to open this up and I'm going to show you what's inside so that you can see what it's like. But you can also see it's standing up, it's gotten straight, it's not curly anymore like they were when we harvested them. It's a lot tougher than it was before. This is not really something that you would want to eat, aside from what's inside this flower, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. So when you're harvesting garlic, you don't just want to take it and yank it out of the ground. We want to loosen up the dirt first. We want to dig. So we're going to dig around the garlic bulb. We want to be careful not to dig into it, but we want to loosen it up because we don't want to damage the stalk when we're pulling. As we hang it to cure and dry, we want what energy is left in these green leaves to go into the garlic bulb. We don't want to open up the stalk and allow contaminants to get in there that are going to make our garlic spoil faster and just reduce the shelf life of our garlic. So we're just going to take our little trowel here. We're going to kind of go underneath the garlic bulb. Once you've got it nice and loose, you can pull it up. And there we go, first garlic bulb. So this one's decent size. It's not huge, but it's definitely big enough that I'm happy with it. So let's dig up a few more and see what we have. Okay, so we've got lots of garlic harvested. There's just a few things that I want to show you. So the first thing I want to show you, this is an example of a garlic that we waited a little bit too long for. Now most of our garlic we did harvest at the perfect stage, but see how this is split? See how all the cloves are starting to really break apart? This garlic, while it looks like it was a really nice head of garlic before it started to split, this one is not going to store very long. So this is going to be the garlic that I am going to use first. I won't plan on replanting this and I won't plan on storing this. We had 3 heads of garlic that kind of started to split. You can see this one's a really little head, but this one started to split too. So those will be, as I said, the ones that we use first. We won't try to store those. The next thing I want to show you is a closer look at this garlic scape here. Now this scape is really developed. I mean, you can see, look how long it is. That comes out from the plant there. We're not going to use this scape for cooking, although we could save this stalk and use it in broth, but it won't be very tender to actually eat. Now also take a look at the bulb that this scape came from. You can see how this one is quite a bit smaller than a lot of my other garlic bulbs. See, I've got this one for comparison. This is the same type of garlic. You can see this one is a decent sized bulb. This one is quite a bit smaller. Now, it's hard to know. I had some variation in size in my garlic bulbs anyway, so it's hard to know how much of this size difference is because we left the scape to develop on that garlic bulb, but it certainly is interesting to note that this garlic has a much smaller bulb. Now, this scape here, I'm going to snap the top off, and I'm going to show you what's inside. I'm going to show you what is inside this garlic flower. If you look here, you can see little bits of flowers, and kind of behind the flowers, I'm not sure if that's perfectly focused, you can see these little white things. Those are mini garlic bulbs. I'm sorry, those are mini garlic cloves. Now these, we're going to let dry out. These are delicious. You can use them just like garlic. I like to just take them out of this little scape head here, and I like to sprinkle them on pizza or something like that. You could saute them up with, say, some green beans, some snap peas, something like that. They're definitely delicious. These are worth saving. You can actually replant these and use them kind of like garlic seeds, but it's going to take you a couple years to get a full-size garlic harvest from these. So the easiest way to regrow your garlic is to save the cloves and replant those. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, I also wanted to show you a little bit of the size variation we got in our garlic harvest. I didn't get any monster garlic heads. I got some pretty decent ones though. You can see these. I have quite a few that are about this size here. That's a respectable garlic harvest, not huge, but certainly I'm satisfied with it. And you can see the individual cloves in this garlic bulb are really large. So when you cook with garlic that has huge cloves like this, you don't usually need to use as many as you would if you were using smaller cloves. But let's compare that to these little garlic heads here. These are quite a bit smaller. Now these were growing on the end of the bed. For some reason, the last row in my bed, all of the garlic heads were pretty small. So I'm not sure what happened there, but something, maybe because they didn't have soil in both directions because they were on the edge of the walkway. Maybe they just didn't get as much nutrition being on the end of the bed. I'm not really sure what the cause was, but it is interesting to note and something to be aware of for the future. Now I have a couple plans for our garlic. Most of this garlic I'm going to hang up to cure and to dry out in our garage. And we're just going to leave it hanging in the garage all year. And I'm just going to use it in cooking. But you can see here that some of these have really large cloves. These are the ones that I'm going to save for replanting. When you're going to replant your garlic, you want to choose the garlic that has the largest cloves, and that's not necessarily going to be the largest head. For example, this garlic head here is not one of my larger heads, but it only has 4 cloves, and those cloves are huge. So the larger garlic cloves are going to develop into a larger garlic head for you next year. So what you want to do is you want to save your garlic that looks the healthiest and that has the biggest cloves and save that for replanting. So I usually end up using about 20 to 25% of my garlic harvest to replant and make sure that I get a garlic harvest for next year. Now there are some great benefits to saving your own garlic for seed. The most obvious one is that it's going to save you a lot of money. If you don't have to buy seed garlic every year, it's going to save you a lot. Now, seed garlic can be pretty expensive. You can also use garlic that you buy as long as it is organic garlic. Sometimes non-organic garlic is, people say that it's sometimes treated with a chemical so that it stores longer to inhibit sprouting. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that, but it's definitely something to consider. The other thing to consider is if you're trying to grow garlic from, say, the grocery store, it may not be a garlic that grows really well in your area. A lot of garlic is imported from like California or from China. And so depending on where you live, it may not be the garlic that's best for your area. But if you replant your seed garlic and you replant the garlic that does the best every year, what's going to happen is that garlic is going to become acclimated to your specific growing conditions. And they say after about 5 years of saving your garlic seed and replanting it, you are going to have garlic that is perfectly acclimated to your growing environment. So what you want to do is to get seed garlic, you can order seed garlic from a company. You could also go to the farmer's market and get garlic that has been grown locally, because most likely farmers that are growing in your area are going to know the varieties that are good for your area. So that's a cheaper option if you want to use that for seed garlic as well. But once you have your own garlic started, the cheapest option of all is to save your seed garlic and replant it every year. So here's our full garlic harvest. You can see I have it separated into 3 piles. These are the ones that split. I'm keeping them separate because we're going to use those right away. This large pile is my German extra hardy or German white garlic. And this is a different variety which was gifted to me by a friend. I don't know what type it was because her son had mixed up the labels. I think it might be Spanish Roja or possibly German red. I'm not sure. But either way, I keep a little bit of that growing just for a little variety. So what I'm going to do with all this garlic is I'm going to separate out the ones that I'm planning to save for seed stock for next year. I'm going to hang those in their own separate bundle. And then I'm going to separate out the others into bundles of maybe 5, 6, 7 heads, just so that you don't want to put them in one giant bundle because you want them to have enough airflow to be able to really dry out. They need to dry out for long-term storage. So I'm just going to hang them in bundles in my garage. That is probably not the ideal way to cure it. I'm not all that scientific about it. As I said, I just hang them in bundles. My garage is really warm this time of year, but it gets really cool in the fall and winter, which is going to help extend the life of my garlic. As I said, that's probably not the ideal way to cure it. I haven't really looked into exactly the best way to do it, but that works really well for me. My garlic lasts until we eat it all and run out of it, which is usually sometime around February. Sometimes we can kind of stretch it into March, depending on the year. And so then we have to suffer through a couple months of store-bought garlic, right, until we get our harvest next year. But that's what I do. If you have any tips for curing garlic, if there's a better way to do it, let me know. And maybe eventually we'll be able to grow enough garlic to last us the entire year. And then we'll want to make sure that we really do cure it the right way. But that's about all there is to it. Garlic is one of the easiest crops to grow. We'll talk a little bit more about planting it and growing it this fall when we plant our crop of seed garlic. All right, until next time, I will see you later. I hope you're having a great day and a great harvest. Bye. See you next time.